Why did you leave Harvard, Dr. Pipes, to join the Reagan team?
Well, I joined it in February '81 and returned to Harvard in December '82.
And why? What made you decide to leave Harvard?
I didn't leave Harvard, I just went on leave of absence. But if I had stayed longer, I would have had to give up my chair. So I returned. Harvard only gives you 2 years of leave of absence. So when my 2 years were up, I returned.
And what interested you in working with the Reagan team?
Well, my ideas were very close to the president's, and I finally had a president who took a tough stance towards the Soviet Union. So I thought I should help.
Do you recall your first meetings with President Reagan?
Yes, it was before the election or during the campaign. We had a meeting with him. It was sometime in the either late summer or early fall of '80. And we each said a few words. And I remember he told us a story of an American captain, whose name I've now forgotten, in the 19th century, who had a freedom fighter from Austria on board his ship because he fled there. He was I've forgotten, he was not an Austrian, he was either Serb or a Croat or something like this. And the Austrians threatened to seize him. And the captain said, if you do that, we will show your city. I think it was Chester. And they never came. And the president said, since then, there's always a ship named after this captain as a hero. And that's stuck in my memory. And then that was the first time I saw him physically. And then after that, of course, I joined in February. The first year I didn't see very much of him because Richard Allen, who was the National Security Advisor, felt we should work through him. So we wrote memoranda, and I wrote a long memorandum called Ronald Reagan's Soviet Policy, which he submitted to him at the end of the year. And Reagan wrote on top of it, very sound. And then out of this came NSDD 75.
So in this memo that you wrote, you defined that our objective is no longer to contain communism, but rather to defeat it.
That's right, because containment was no longer a viable policy. When George Kennan defined the policy of containment, that was, what, 47, communism was confined to the Soviet Union and the Eastern Europe where they occupied. But by the time Reagan came into office, it was spread all over the world. It metastasized. First of all, there was China, of course. There was North Korea, there was Cuba, and so on. So that trying to contain it was futile, I thought. And therefore, what we have to do is to work on the system itself and try to defeat it.
Did you realize that that memo would be the basis of NSDD 75?
No, I didn't. When I wrote it, I just felt that Reagan had the right attitude towards the Soviet Union, but he didn't have a theory to support it and a strategy. So I felt I should formulate it. Now, I was director of East European and Soviet affairs, so I felt it was my duty to provide him with a theory. No, I did not know there would be an NSDD 75, no. That's not.
And when it was released, or the Soviets apparently found out about it and were very concerned that this would threaten history.
Well, they did, yes. It was, I left, I remember exactly when I left the White House, it was December 17th, 1982, and the president signed off on it. And it leaked. I mean, all these things leaked. You could have very little secrecy in the White House. I did something called Team B a few years earlier, and that too leaked. That was equally top secret. So that did leak, and they were very worried about it, of course.